regarding salaries, we had a letter to the editor suggesting that you freeze wages at the current level. Can you speak to that? I think I know the answer to this, but that's a perception that why not just freeze all the wages for the current contract? And what's your position on that?
My position?
What's your opinion on that?
Contracts are negotiated between the Board of Education.
I guess the question is, what's your opinion on that realistically happening?
I don't know if that will realistically happen. We haven't even begun discussions of contracts for any of our groups for the next. Actually, we generally run 2-year contracts, could be a 1-year contract, but the discussions have not even begun between the board and the union groups.
Would you consider that a bargaining position? Would the district consider that?
I can't answer to that. That's not my decision, Frank, but...
I'll speak a little to that. There's a limited amount one can speculate about that. We've certainly talked about that. I mean, this is not a forbidden topic at our table. What about salary freezes? I just went through this negotiation with the union people that represent custodians and secretaries and teachers, where the bulk of the money flows around here. You try to present a package that looks reasonable. You try to get concessions on health care, insurance, co-pays, you know, all the stuff that where you can save some money, salaries and benefits. I think you can, without knowing exactly the numbers, what we settled on was the lowest in memory, maybe the lowest in the last 3 decades. We did what we could do. I thought we did pretty well. I thought we could have done better. But the problem with those negotiations is they are subject to arbitration. If we say, okay, we want to freeze wages, and the union says, no way, and we each, you know, back into our corners, then somebody's going to arbitrate on that. It won't be our choice, it will be the arbitrator's choice. Am I speaking right here? Arbitration is expensive. We tried to avoid arbitration and yet drive as hard a bargain as we could, and in fact, in terms of what we accomplished, we're pretty good. I think there's no point at which you could say I could have done better.
But wage freezes are common in industry. You read the paper, there's wage freezes, a lot of corporations can go crossways. Is that practical in the education system because of the union?
Well, I don't know enough about it to comment on what's common and what's not common. My experience isn't strong there. Yeah?
I just have a comment and a question. When is the next teacher contract due to be negotiated?
We're in the final year of our present contract, so the negotiations will begin
This spring?
hopefully in the spring.
And then the comment I had, I've heard from a lot of people talking about this referendum, and most people are having a hard time getting their mind around the fact that the referendum is asking for almost 10% increase in the budget, yet we've only cut about less than 1% annually out of the budget. And a lot of people are having a hard time with that. A 10% increase seems like a lot in this economy. And, you know, we've made cuts. You've made a list of cuts here. You know, they're significant, but when you add them up, they're less than 1% of the budget. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed, and people are talking about that.
Is that a comment or a question? So,
Well, that was a comment. The
Okay.
question was about the negotiations.
okay. Yeah, individually each year they are at less than 1% of the budget. Yeah. if we were to make all those cuts in 1 year, you'd say, yeah, well, you've cut 15% of your budget out. I mean, so cumulatively, yeah, they're about 15%, but annually, about 1%.
With the current housing market and the vast fluctuation of property values, as an example, mine has changed almost $60,000 in 24 months. How is that going to affect the referendum dollars?
Mike might be able to answer it a little better than I can, but
District-wide, our valuation went down about 2.3%. So while individual pieces fluctuate a lot, as a whole, district-wide, our valuation went down about 2.3%. So while your individual homes may go up and down a lot, overall, we're not seeing that. There are districts that are fluctuating in the double digits, even down kind of by the Twin Cities. But like Donna mentioned earlier, it's kind of, even all the townships are basically set at Madison, so we don't have any control over that. And there's new construction, and then there's also fluctuations in your own home. Mine went down this year as well, evaluation did, but overall our district doesn't fluctuate a whole lot. Through the 90s and most of the 2000s, it was actually going up pretty rapidly, but that has slowed down, actually gone backwards now.
Given the political situation, politicians, Madison, etc., is there any indication that you have that things are going to change over the next several years? In other words, if this referendum passes 4 years from now, is there likely to be another referendum, say for 2.35 million, to keep it in the same position?
the politicians are talking about funding formulas and how to change funding formulas, but I don't know that anything is going to change in the next 4 years. As a matter of fact, our projections were based off of current law. That's how we do our projections, based off of current law. And this year, our revenue limit is $9,200. Next year, under current law, it would be $9,400. The year after that, under current law, it would be $9,800, I believe. And we've used that as our projections. Now, there's also talk in Madison about not giving a per pupil increase next year, or making the per pupil increase $100 instead of $200. I don't know what they're going to do. They'll have to fight through some things, and we'll make adjustments when they get through fighting through some things. So I don't know the answer.